Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. The Red Bull Homeground's underway yesterday. Only 3 teams remain in the tournament after yesterday's action. Certainly not the 3 teams that many would have been expecting. FNATIC gone from the tournament already. G2 survive, although the controversy with that team certainly continues. And what about Zeta Division making this crazy run? Sentinels with lots of reaction as well from their side, what they need to improve on going forwards. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. We're going to start with a couple of roster things around the rest of the world. Pacific Esports. So lots of controversy about this team over the last few weeks. If you guys are unfamiliar, their entire team got poached by BBL because they're kind of part, well, an affiliate relationship is what they called it. So controversial for sure. The point being, they're now gone, and actually as of the contract database yesterday, those BBL players are now officially getting added. So those contracts are getting signed. It leaves Pacific Esports, they need a whole team, they need a full team. Now, there was some debate on, well, hang on a second, all the guys that qualified with your org have now been poached by the other org that they were kind of playing for at the same time secretly. So do they deserve to keep the spot, or should it go to the team that came second in Ascension, whatever? The point is, no, they also committed to those players. Riot say, you guys made it, the players made it, you will get to stay. So they're building a team. Zyvoth apparently is another player that they are looking to sign. So they're bringing in Leader as their head coach. He was on Loud recently. Magnum and Zyvoth, it seems, are a couple of players that they're starting to build around. So I think that's a pretty solid starting point, to be honest. It'll be an interesting little rivalry next season. The other development in the Americas was this. So we saw that Icy was gone from Evil Geniuses as of yesterday. And Icy says this: the truth is the public eye did not see how draining this year was for every player in the team. Speaking on this has been long overdue. There's been so much hate and criticism circling around my name constantly over my career when no one has understood my situation. Don't think it's fair how people can quickly come to conclusions about me without knowing who I am as a player, person or teammate. I know what I'm capable of, and I was able to show glimpses of it despite the things I've had to deal with. So not really sure what he's kind of getting at there specifically behind the scenes. Of course, like, it's not our place to comment or discuss. But look, my opinion is, at the end of the day, yeah, was Icy getting a lot of criticism this year for his performances at times? Yes. Was some of it unwarranted and maybe too far? Also certainly understandable. But also, when you're a professional player playing in a professional league, it is what it is, right? Like, you're going to get criticized if you're not performing. It's just part of the process, and sometimes that might not be considered fair. But if this is what you choose to do as a career, at some point, you know, you've got to learn that you're going to have to accept it at some point. But as he says, people behind the scenes at EG deserve the best. Org treated me so well, apart from my departure video, including only 1Ks and 2Ks. He says it's pretty funny. Thankful for the org. So yeah, wishing the best for IC going forwards. Derek was released yesterday. So this kind of came as a little bit of a surprise. There has been some rumours lately that Evil Geniuses would go in a different direction. But again, the timing is suboptimal, right, for Derek, really, because, yeah, we thought Derek would probably stay for a time. Then it was like, okay, maybe he's not going to stay. Maybe they're going to keep Superman. Ye's going to go as well. So, like, I'm sure there's been conversations that have been had, but he's still got Valorant for Evil Geniuses, I can see here in his bio, right? So there you go, Valorant for Evil Geniuses. So, okay, he's obviously gone now, but he's looking for a team. Thanks for EG being my home for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, with the timing of this decision, I most likely won't see you guys in VCT. So again, it is another unfortunate development that, look, would Derek have got a spot? Like, you know, would 100 Thieves have picked him back up or something? Maybe not. But the reality is all the other teams have locked in their rosters. So this is the other problem when you play for orgs like EG that are, let's say, further down the pecking order in terms of salaries and what they will pay and their expectations, is that they also form their rosters later than others, because the big guns, they get in early, they sign the big players, and then EG are fighting for the scraps, right? Which means if you're a player from that team in the previous season, you get dropped, by the time you get dropped, it's kind of too late. Now for Derek, he maybe would have seen that coming to a certain degree, but it's not just true for Derek, for Evil Geniuses, for an organization who, while they won the World Championship in 2023, they don't have, you know, quite the same budget and clout and expectations as some of the other teams do in the Americas. While that may be true for them, it's also true for G2, and we'll get to that in a second. So the Red Bull Homegrounds tournament gets underway yesterday. There's still, well, it was actually underway the day before, but yesterday was a load of the big best of ones. this was the full Sentinels team. Thought it was pretty funny looking at this, right? Caillou, John QT, Cortasia, Narrate, all pretty deadpan. And then Redux just can't help himself with that massive grin on his face. There was a little bit of talk. I don't remember what Shazam's original tweet was because I didn't see it and he's deleted it. But Akamaru quote tweeted it and said, I don't know why you would attack Caillou. And then Shazam says, not an attack or hating on Caillou, but Jonah P is hard to pass on. So the implication there from Shazam is that Sentinels should say, look, yeah, we formed our roster. We're excited about our roster. We think we can do pretty well this year. But Jonah P is now available from G2, so we should go and get him instead. Now, again, what would that look like? I guess Shazam was playing around with the idea of dropping Caillou for Jonah P. Jonah P, John QT, all the same situation. Interesting to think about, right? Because Jonah P might be one of those players that is difficult to pass on, as he says, given the opportunity is there to go and get him. The G2 drama continues to some degree. Sage was talking with Josh RT, and, well, he asked him a couple of interesting questions. Basically what he said was, these decisions were made in light of the past month. So, seemingly their scrims or whatever happened behind the scenes over the last few weeks weren't going to plan. He said they're making their decision in the best interest of the organisation. The other thing that I thought was very interesting is he asked him a question at one point and said, I like the way that he asked it as well. He asked it much nicer than I would have done. But he pretty much said, Baby Bay is now in the team. Should we expect that for the full season? Or is this tournament here in New York just kind of a trial with Baby Bay to see whether that's enough? And Josh RT refused to answer this, right? He said, basically, time will tell, we'll see about that. So, thought that was very interesting because he did not confirm beyond any doubt that Baby Bay will be the 5th and that he will definitely be the 5th when the season gets underway. And we saw in the tweets that G2 did yesterday, they literally tweeted, Baby Bay is a starting player, he's our new Sentinel, and then they edited their tweet to no longer say that. So I think it's pretty clear that whatever we think about the Baby Bay situation, this is not yet finalised. I don't think they're bringing Jonah P back. I think that's what I will say, because that situation, for whatever reason, feels like it might well be beyond repair, but I do imagine that they have another player in mind, or at least another trial that maybe they had, that I don't think it's necessarily a total guarantee that Baby Bay is there for the new season for sure. The team hasn't said that yet, and even though when they did say it, they then backtracked on it, and now Josh RT refused to say beyond any doubt that that is the case. So, yeah, very strange, right? G2, what a few weeks for them. But the tournament gets properly underway, and we got some remarkable results, right? So, first of all, Zeta Division. I don't know what it is with Zeta, but whenever they have no expectations, they're the best team on the planet. And whenever you start to believe in them, then they fall off, right? So, hopefully that will be a different story this year. But they turned up to the Red Bull Homegrounds, they beat G2, and then they just slammed FNATIC. Like, it wasn't even, they literally went up 8-0, which was insane. There was also a G2 versus Sentinels best of 1. This is pretty interesting. Now, look, G2 got the win. G2 love getting the win against Sentinels. You know how it is, regardless of the situation. But Caillou in a 1 versus 2. 1, 2, 3. I don't know what those clowns were doing, but the talk was, old G2 would never have let that round go and all this. But this is the way that the bracket played out. As I say, I'm not going to get into look at every single series yesterday. I think it's not a shame, but it's definitely interesting that some of these teams, I mean all of these teams, they turn up to New York to play a couple of best of 1s and then go home. Right? Like, it's a pretty long way to go to organise all of this. You could probably try and make this tournament longer with some more best of 3s or something, but still, it's a good selection of Valorant that was played. So NRG, they advanced through the upper bracket. Sentinels beat T1 14-12. Then they lost to NRG. This was a really close map, actually. 13-11 on the Pearl. They gave it a really good go, I thought, here. And Cortasia continues to kind of be on fire. So I think there's a lot of questions maybe on whether Aspas and the boys at MIBR made the right call getting rid of Cortasia, because the way that he's been playing, it's difficult to imagine that Tex will outperform this current level next season. That's a talking point for the future. But NRG, of course, with Keiko coming in, reigning world champions, Keiko's in instead of Som. They're pretty happy so far, but I thought Sentinels would be pretty happy with that. But it was this Zeta division couple of series. I mean, they played FNATIC, and they smoked him 13-1 on the bind. Boaster drops the Pi stat line, 3-14. All the subs they've got on Zeta, you know, Honey Bunny and the boys, for them to turn up and just 13-1 FNATIC is pretty wild, right? So thought that was a crazy storyline. The fact that also they beat G2 to get to this point, 13-7 on the Haven. Absol was 25-10 on the Yoru. So, yeah, Zeta might well be the favourites for the tournament, but they play NRG next up. Then FNATIC did make the losers run. They knocked out T1, but then they lost to G2. So G2 beat Cloud9. Cloud9 lost to FNATIC 13-7. Then they lost to G2 13-11. So again, not an ideal tournament for Cloud9 really. They usually love these off-season tournaments, but and it was close. But they lost to G2. G2 then took down Sentinels 13-8 on the split, as we saw some highlights on that moment. But yeah, it wasn't a great map from Kai or John QT really. Baby Bay had a good stat line here, 18-13. Then they took down FNATIC 15-13 on the Abyss, so they continue on to the tournament. This was the real Jorgamo takeover. So yeah, big tournament so far. Like, as I say, I'd have loved to have seen these series in best of threes because you just can't take too much away from all of the best of ones. But NRG, Zeta, and G2, one of those is going to win the grand final coming up over the next couple of days, but a ton of teams eliminated already. And yes, Kaplan says, GG's are the teams we played. Grateful to Red Bull putting on the event. Had a lot of fun with the new team. Super confident in the future. I think Sentinels fans watching last night will have, taken away some level of confidence. Obviously not ideal losing in the way that they did, but the matches they played, losing to G2, losing to NRG in best of ones, acceptable enough. But again, G2 continue to have their number regardless of the circumstances. And as Baby Bay says, 0-1 versus Zeta, but then 1-0 C9, 1-0 Sen, 1-0 FNATIC. The team makes it through to the rest of the tournament. FNATIC, it was an interesting tournament for them, right? Because to turn up and, they had no practice with their new player. He says, we learned a lot from those wins and losses. See you in Soup. So they're going to the Soup Valorant League. We don't yet know fully what the rest of that team is going to look like. Not an ideal tournament for Cloud9 to turn up and just bomb out 0-2 on the day against FNATIC and G2, but happy with how we've played and improved. But yeah, again, the nepotism shouts are going to be there. So some nice early indications as to where these rosters are going to be. Caillou says, team is hungry to win. We will show progress. Only 3 days of practice going in. Again, every team has had no practice for this event, right? So that's worth keeping in mind as well. Even G2. To be fair, I guess they've been playing quite a lot of trials with their various players that they may or may not be bringing in. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.